so much to talk about.
We got a lot. Vine monsters.
If I had a nickel for each thing we're talking about tonight that has had a crash landing into a wild jungle.
A monster-infested jungle.
I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Oh boy. Let's get into it.
Star Wars, Transformers, Godzilla, animation, whatever else. Rebels, robots, and etc.
Well, it's Wednesday night, and Cameron and Rachel are hanging out yet again, which must mean it's Starformers Zillimation night. Welcome to Rebels and Robots and RAR and rotoscoping.
But no rotoscoping tonight. No etc. tonight.
And, well, there will be a little bit in news. I've got a fun news thing that might...
I have so much news, Cameron.
I've got a news thing that's going to hook in an additional thing that should definitely be on this podcast, but unfortunately is not, won't have something for a little while. So, but we could maybe talk about it in the future. Anyways, this is episode 48. This is our... Well, I'm Cameron.
I'm Rachel.
I got out of order. This is our bi-weekly chat about Star Wars and...
Transformers.
And...
Godzilla.
and animation. And whatever else we want to talk about.
Whatever else we subject you to.
You are, listeners, entering into our sicko mode for the next month and a half, where we are going to be covering both a movie from the Monsterverse as well as multiple episodes of Bad Batch Season 3.
It's a good thing the first 3 episodes didn't launch next week, because then we'd have 4 episodes of Bad Batch and King of the Monsters, and I will not be shutting up during King of the Monsters. So,
oh, very good. So we will be talking a whole lot about today's subject. We have a lot of time to talk about both a movie and 3 episodes of this season premiere, which we didn't know was going to happen until a month ago, but here we are. We had our whole...
They dropped it, and we're like, oh, crap.
We had our whole Mon-March Madness planned out, and then Lucasfilm was like, oh, also...
March Madness.
We've also got Bad Batch
Season 3.
Season 3 for February.
Bad Barch.
Bad Barch. We've got Mon-March Barch Madness. Mon-March Bad Barch Madness. The M is gone, so it doesn't really work. We'll workshop it. We'll keep. Dang it. So. Wow, this is a great start to this. What's probably going to be a 3-hour episode.
This is going to be a hot second.
This might be our longest episode ever. I can check in a second.
Just wait till 2 weeks.
So I've got big news that just happened last night. We normally talk about news. Rachel's normally our news person, but I asked her if she had this and she didn't. But she's not heard this headline yet. So something that we are both very much into is the Jurassic Park films, specifically the original film. And if you don't know, there's the 3 original Jurassic Park movies, and then there was the 3 Jurassic World films, which got progressively worse. And Rachel and I saw the last one together in theaters, and
but we got to see Jeff Goldblum,
and it was supposed to be
Laura Dern,
yes,
and Sam Neill.
It was supposed to be the quote unquote end game of the Avengers end game of Jurassic Park movies, where they brought together the new cast and the old cast, and you would think that would mean it would be the end for a while, but no. Universal is very much on the fast track to trying to get another supposed Jurassic World. We don't know exactly if it's going to be a Jurassic World movie or Jurassic Park. They're saying it's going to be a new start to a new trilogy. We know nothing about it yet. They unofficially, it's always hard to tell if something's confirmed or not, but about 2 weeks ago, David Leitch was supposedly very close to becoming the director. David Leitch directed the Deadpool films. He directed Deadpool 2. He works on the John Wick movies. He's made some other. He also made the quite good Bullet Train in 2022. He's like a fun action guy. Within a week of the headlines coming out saying that he looked like he was going to direct the next Jurassic Park movie, he was officially out over creative differences. Well, last night,
Yikes.
It was officially confirmed that Gareth Edwards is going to be making this guy, very relevant to our podcast,
What?
director of Godzilla 2014 and Rogue One, at least most of Rogue One, not the reshoots, supposedly. So this guy,
Really?
if this guy makes this will be 3 series you and I both very much care about.
So are we gonna get a dark, gritty Jurassic World movie?
Who knows? I mean, they definitely tried that with the last 2 Jurassic World films, but I mean, this is the guy to go for, right? I mean, this seems like a really obvious choice, but
We'll watch your progress with great interest.
yes. So very excited about this.
Gareth, don't let us down.
They're fast tracking this to they want it to come out in 2025.
Oh my gosh!
We'll see if that happens.
Whoa!
We'll see if this guy even stays on. But I mean, this has the potential to be the best Jurassic Park sequel. I don't like any of the sequels. Some people are starting to come around on Lost World. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, so I can't say. I might need to rewatch it at some point.
Hey, people might not have liked Lost World, but every single other movie that came out in the next 15 years tried to copy it.
That's true. That's so true. And so yeah, so that's a Jurassic Park would definitely be something we would cover on this podcast
Dinosaurs.
if there was anything to really talk about in that realm.
Then we can hear me talk about the books.
So if we're still podcasting by the time this next one comes out, we can do the same thing with Mon-March Madness, but with the Jurassic Park movies leading up to it. We can watch all 6 movies. What other news do you have?
There's a new Godzilla X Kong trailer that came out.
Yes, I did not watch it.
I did not watch it either. I didn't know if we were going to watch it because Cameron typically will just watch the first one and then go blind for the rest of it. So I didn't watch it. But I did. So that was new. So if there's a new one you want to go see, it's the official 2nd trailer. Go watch it. I might give it a look-see, but might not. But other than that, this is just some interesting information. So we've seen the baby monkey.
Yes. He has a name.
Zuko.
Zuko.
Which sounds like Sokka from Avatar. Like
Yeah.
Zuko and Sokka. Anyways.
He's their baby.
Ew. Ooh, I think I'll edit that out. Cut that.
She's already asleep.
She is. We're not going to talk about the live action Netflix series because the more I hear about it, the more awful it sounds. Side tangent. We're going to make a better one than the M. Night Shyamalan, and the creators keep opening their mouths and it's just awful. Anyways, apparently Zuko in this did you turn me down?
I turned down our headsets. No, your volume is the same. It was just a little too loud for us. We have good audio levels.
Anyways,
you don't have to go louder.
I know. I was turning myself up. Anyways, apparently Zuko, this little monkey guy in Godzilla X Kong, and Kong, Skull Island Kong, are the same height.
Oh my gosh. That's wild.
Which is
That's bizarre.
insane. And someone said apparently. So I follow this YouTube site or YouTube channel called Goji Center. Goji Center does a lot of in-depth analysis about Godzilla, especially the Legendary Verse and other monster movies. And they're almost like, we would almost argue that Zuko's a little bit taller than Kong, and apparently Hollow Earth Kongs are bigger than Skull Island Kongs, which does make sense if you kind of look comparatively between this new villain and Kong. But absolutely mind-blowing that they are around the same height.
Yeah, that really shows one how big Kong has gotten since then, which is we'll talk about this later. Actually, the scale of Kong, we'll talk about that once we actually get into the movie. But yeah, the size of these creatures is very fascinating. Mm-hmm. Talking about Kong, I think bringing back a segment I loved around the promotion of Transformers Rise of the Beast was the posters every week. We have a very cool poster about Godzilla X Kong for Chinese New Year.
That's nice.
It's got like this dragon thing. It's from the side. It's red and gold. Yeah, just a nice, visually pleasing poster.
If that poster had been at that comic toy thing we went to, I would have bought that.
Also around some Kong or Godzilla stuff. Toho Godzilla's Facebook page posted this. I thought these were really cool. They're doing a Godzilla Skate or Die comic. The description says it's the King of the Monsters versus Varan or Varan, Varan. I looked him up. He's a classic Japanese monster versus teenage Australian skate punks. I might check out this comic. I want to see how they managed to make skate punks relevant to a Godzilla
Who's more
story.
disruptive to an industrial location, skate punks or Godzilla?
Yes, exactly. So Godzilla Skate or Die. This art is very, very amusing. Really fun to look at. So what else you got?
So I just saw this. It's from CBR, and it just popped up in my Google. And they were talking with Anna Sawai, who is Kate from Monarch Legacy of Monsters, about an update of season 2. And this is the title of the article. Monarch Legacy of Monsters star offers disappointing season 2 update. And I went, oh, what does that mean? Basically, what it means is there is no update.
Yeah.
Actually, she spoke with Screen Rant. She said, I talked to the other actors, who were May and Kentaro. She's like, I speak to them all the time, and we still don't know if there's going to be a second season. She goes, I'm asking the same question to the producers and the showrunner, Chris Black. And so I'd like to know if you find out. So the showrunner, Chris Black, stated this past January that Monarch series had done very well. And he was optimistic about a second season. This is what made me laugh. Apple subscribers reportedly tuned in for Monarch. Following Monarch's premiere in November 2023, Apple Plus TV reported that the series had become the #1 first season drama on the streamer. Whoa. Despite not sharing viewership statistics, Black's comments seemed to indicate that a lot of subscribers tuned in weekly for some monster-filled shenanigans. They must have been watching a different show than we were. Critical reception was also high for Legacy of Monsters, with the series currently sitting at 90% on the review aggregate website Rotten Tomatoes. Anyways, I just thought that was kind of funny. Despite not sharing viewership statistics, I just thought that was kind of funny. If you want to hear us just trash talk Legacy of Monsters, you can listen to the past couple episodes at the end of the year. But overall, what other news do you have? I have a lot.
So this is not news, but this is somewhat a correction, an update, a note from last week's episode or last episode. So as you recall, we were looking at the posters from Godzilla 2014 from other countries, and the Japanese one had the main actors on it, and I didn't even recognize her, and it had his mom on it, and I had no idea why. We were very confused as to why. We did not really recognize this actress. Well, in the last 2 weeks, I was listening to an episode of one of my favorite podcasts called Blank Check. This episode is from
Rebels and Robots.
No. And they were talking about, I believe it was their episode on Saving Private Ryan. Not really relevant. This podcast, what I love about it is like us, they go on unrelated tangents. And this episode, I believe this episode was from 2019. So this podcast
That's the year King of the Monsters came out.
Well, they were talking about, they were just like making jokes. They were listing off like when like respected actors are in like Hollywood trash, like out of nowhere. And they made a joke about Juliette Binoche being in Godzilla 2014. What are you in this movie? And I was like, who is that? Well, I've already given away. I looked up. She's the actress who played the mother. So I was like, why is this an example? I don't know who this is at all. I looked it up. She's an Oscar-winning actor. In 1997, she won Best Actress for the movie The English Patient. And in 2001, she was nominated for Best Actress for the movie Chocolat with Johnny Depp. So it is not actually that surprising that she is on the poster. It's more surprising that she plays this one scene character at the beginning of Godzilla 2014. An Oscar-winning and nominated actress. So I have no idea who she is. I've never seen any movies with her.
I haven't.
But both funny and sad at the same time. But the fact that our question was answered on a totally unrelated podcast because
they're in our walls, Cameron.
When this podcast came out years ago, but it was also years after that movie came out.
Yeah.
So it was a very weird coincidence.
It's almost like Hollow World time travel.
What other news you got?
Diego Luna announced that the filming for Andor season 2 has finished.
Yes, we previously talked about this. I believe at least they were very close to being done.
So they are done.
Cool.
They are done.
So we're going to get it.
Oh,
Hopefully.
gosh. Oh, gosh. I hope it's good.
This is the one area I feel like we don't have to worry about something being shot, finished, and not released. Everything outside of...
I will go straight to Dave Filoni's home if we do not get Andor season 2.
Pretty much, Star Wars, I think, might be one of the very few safe things. Maybe, like, some very few franchises. Outside of those very few franchises, right now, there's always a slim chance or moderate chance that something will be shot and not released. It hasn't happened a lot, but it is happening more and more. And I think a Star Wars thing at this point is incredibly... It would have to be really terrible for them not to release, I think. Other news. This is not news, but in the same vein as the poster, I found... Actually, this was while I was watching the Super Bowl. So if you don't know, this is a side tangent. This relates to animation and one of our favorite things, SpongeBob. The Super Bowl was also broadcasting on Nickelodeon, at which time the game was being commentated on by SpongeBob and Patrick, with the actors doing live commentary in character. So I had that playing on my laptop while I watched the actual Super Bowl on my television. So I was seeing Cartoon Network commercials as well, and this led me to see something
on Nickelodeon?
Yeah. No, sorry. Nickelodeon commercials, not Cartoon Network. Like kids commercials, like toy commercials that I would not see otherwise. Well, I saw a commercial for Kong X Godzilla toys.
Oh, shoot.
And this stuff is super hilarious. This very much, if you've ever seen something I'm really fascinated by and has really showed up in my algorithm on the internet, is 90s toy commercials are hysterical. And I feel like toy commercials aren't like this anymore. But I find this
It's because we don't have commercials anymore.
It's actual footage of the toys themselves, and it looks really, really cheap. Like,
oh. Wait, no, go back. Go back 10 seconds. Did that say with Titanus Doug? Oh my gosh!
Yeah, oh yeah, I thought you'd get a kick out of that. Yeah, so Zuko comes with Doug, who is this big lizard boy that
Doug
we saw in
like
Godzilla vs. Kong.
Distant cousin from the Godzilla genus.
Like
oh my gosh.
But like, the Zuko toy just throws a rock and hits Scar in the face.
Do you realize everyone's going to buy that solely for Doug? That's the only way they knew they were going to be able to sell Zuko toys, if they put Doug in it.
Like, it's just showing these toys, like...
6 inch and 11 inch.
This commercial is just so funny to me. I find it so amusing how cheap it is, how it's just like...
I already have a Godzilla.
I feel like majority of toy commercials are like, at least in America, are like really slick and clean and like well lit and like don't show the actual toy that much because they don't. they show you animations. They sell you the characters, not the toys themselves. But the fact that this has so much footage of the actual toys barely doing anything, like doing what they actually do, which is barely move.
Toys.
I find it so amusing.
Oh my gosh.
And I even I took a screenshot of one of the moments, and I think it is so dang funny. It's this both Kong and Godzilla, they have like, so they make sounds like, toys typically do.
Screonk.
But the way that they are, sorry, I lost it.
Gosh, Karen.
The way they are showing it in this commercial is like with these sound waves, and they're both yelling at Scar King at the same time, and he has just it's a toy, so he has a very blank expression. So there's this single image of them just like yelling in both ears. It's like, it feels like Idiot in stereo.
This is Athena and us during the podcast.
So I found this toy commercial very amusing.
Very good.
One of my top moments of the Super Bowl.
Of the pod.
What else you got?
So this is something that we have joked about a lot during Mandalorian season 3, but Emily Swallow, who is the armorer, she was on a podcast of oh gosh, who's the podcast? What the heck? Well, oops. I don't know whose podcast this is. My bad. But so she confirmed that Pedro Pascal currently only voices the Mandalorian. He's not on set at this current moment. And Brandon Wayne is the main guy, and then the stunt. Brandon Wayne is John Wayne's grandson.
Yeah.
And then Lateef Crowder is stunts.
She's talking retroactively about season 3.
Yes.
Because they're not shooting anything currently.
No. So yeah, retroactively season 3, but that was just something we joked about a lot, that he probably recorded his lines in the trailer for The Last of Us
Yes.
via like iPhone memo, and so that was like just kind of confirmation.
And now, if you didn't see, he's also going to be Mr. Fantastic in the next Fantastic Four film. So he's got even more to do now.
Yeah, that Mandalorian movie is never coming out. Mando and Grogu.
Eventually, it's just going to be and Grogu.
They're going to put Grogu back with Luke because Mando's not even going to be on set. Oh, okay. I have a lot of video game news for Star Wars.
Okay, I'm out of news. So
all right.
Give me a rapid fire. So we have a lot to talk about with our subject. We're already 20 minutes in.
So you said that Star Wars is pretty safe, that things don't get filmed and then often, or things don't get like filmed and then, thrown away. The same cannot be said for Star Wars video games.
Very true. Yes.
But so currently there are many games in development. Mm-hmm. Star Wars Jedi, the third game in the Star Wars Jedi trilogy, which is with Cal Kestis, my boy.
That one's going to happen, for sure.
Better. This was just released. There will be a Mandalorian bounty hunter's first-person shooter game, which is going to be pretty linear. Star Wars Outlaws, which is a game trailer that we watched. I think it's by EA. Was that?
That's a Ubisoft one.
Yeah, it's Ubisoft. Yeah. It's open world. It's akin to Grand Theft Auto. There is a Bit Reactor strategy game coming out. Not familiar with that.
A what?
Bit Reactors.
Is that a company?
I think so. I'm not familiar with it. There is the continually discussed KOTOR remake, which has been shelved, but I guess maybe it's not shelved anymore. That one's a little...
For those who don't know, KOTOR stands for Knights of the Old Republic. It's one of the early 2000s, like...
It's an MMORPG.
Was it just on... I think it was just on Xbox. Well, Old Republic was MMO. Mm-hmm. Knights of the Republic was just single player.
True, and then
RPG.
Knights of the Old Republic. Yeah. So anyways, people are wanting to see that. There's the Star Wars Eclipse game that we do not have a date for.
We've only gotten like a story trailer that was incredibly vague. I bet we won't ever see that one with how little news we've gotten on it. It looked really cool. No idea what any of it meant, but it looked cool.
Yeah. Supposedly Skydance, and apparently Skydances has a Star Wars game coming out. I haven't heard anything about that. Mm-hmm. Now, I saw this really funny tweet that said... can't wait for the first person Mandalorian game, and someone took a picture of Tatooine and just like scribbled out the visual HUD of a Mandalorian helmet, so it's like only half the screen.
Yeah,
it's
all you're seeing is in a T shape. Very funny.
So good. And then this just got announced yesterday. Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection will release March 14th on Xbox, PS5, PS4, and Nintendo Switch. And this is going to bring the classic versions of Battlefront and Battlefront 2 with 64-player online battles, new features, and bonus content, including Kit Fisto and Asajj Ventress. So, no Battlefront 3, but, bringing back the classics. I used to play that with my brother a lot. I used to get so mad because he'd kill me every single time, but it is what it is. He was better at it than me. There was some news. They did... Cal Kestis speaking of video games, Cal Kestis did a short interview.
I doubt Cal Kestis, the video game character, did an interview.
Cameron Monaghan
if it was in character, that'd be great. I would be all for it. They do that sometimes. They will do like animated character interviews. Cameron Monaghan?
Yes, Monaghan.
Monaghan. I was on either side of it.
Cameron Monaghan is just Cal Kestis. There is no in between. But so he had made a comment where he said he didn't want a cameo. He wanted to be in live action, but he didn't want a cameo in live action if it didn't have meaning.
Sure.
Which valid, makes sense. And if they bring in Cal Kestis, I want him to be. I want him to. I love Cal Kestis. He's up there.
He's getting up there for you?
Yeah, he's been up there.
I can see that. Yeah, I mean, especially if you spend that much time, 2 whole video games.
I've spent so much time with him.
As in the way that we spend time with characters, enjoying their media, I can totally understand that. Yeah. I feel like, I think I've said it before, I don't know why you cast an actor an actual like movie actor, television actor, make the video game character look like them. I don't see why you do that without any intention to eventually. But also, I think at the time they were making those video games, they thought they'd be making a movie a year. So they thought, oh yeah, we'll definitely make a movie off this very quickly. And now we don't get any movies. So I think that's probably what we probably would have had him on in life, or very shortly would have it if movies.
I want him to show up in that 6.5 movie, or The Empire. I want him to be there. So this isn't quite some news, but this is a quick...
Maybe he'll adopt Grogu because they can't get
oh man,
Mandalorian back,
and Luke's school gets destroyed, so he can't train him. So this isn't news, but this is something that grinds my gears, and I wanted to talk about it.
And what is this podcast? But not.
So I'm not gonna say who posted it, but it just continues to blow my mind when pages post the most fake AI generated movie posters.
Sure.
And there's just thousands of comments about this is so real. And so a page I saw, don't say the name because I didn't crop it out, posted this picture with the little Disney Plus logo and Lucas on the bottom of Star Wars The Beginning, and it's just some awful
I saw this.
AI generated image of pregnant Shmi Skywalker.
Yes, I saw this,
and it just,
this was definitely doing the rounds. It's very generic. Like it's nothing.
It is.
It very well could be like any pregnant woman in robes. Yeah. And you slap a fake Star Wars title on it.
And the comments were exactly what you were thinking of. All the, I can't wait for this. This is so good.
Really? I would expect the other way of people being like, this is dumb. I would never watch this.
No, all of the comments were almost in support.
Interesting.
I can't believe I saw no one saying this is obviously fake. I was like, this is going to be so good. This is what we wanted. This is going to be better than the sequel trilogy. You know, I was just like, I don't care. It's just the part of me that's like, media literacy is dead.
Absolutely.
No one.
Really is.
This is all like everyone makes fun of their like boomer grandparents for falling for phishing schemes through the Gmail. This is the modern generation's fake. Every single time there's an obviously fake movie poster that they're like, this is it. Like, you stop it. It's dumb. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about that because I was just like.
So as of right now, my number one enemy in the fandom is the people posting daily birthday posts, and yours is the really terrible AI generated posters.
I just hate AI as an artist.
Don't blame you. Yeah, we could go on I think maybe at some point that will become very relevant. Either there will be something that will force us to talk about that. But it will probably come up. What other news you got?
That's it.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to end on.
So you want to talk about Kong, or you want to talk about Bad Batch first? Bad Batch is pretty fresh in our mind right now.
Yeah, I want to talk about Bad Batch?
Sure. So, quick recap. So Bad Batch Season 1 was one of our earliest things that we got together regularly to watch.
First thing, no, Season 2.
Well, Season, not
to watch in general. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And then a year ago, Rachel's reacting to something.
I thought I accidentally deleted my entire notes. Ooh, stress.
So a year ago was the first thing that we covered on this show was Bad Batch Season 2. And Bad Batch is about...
Full circle.
Yeah, once Bad Batch Season 3 ends, we're done. We're going to close up podcast. It is about 5 clones? 6 clones if you include Omega, right?
4 original.
Well, the original Bad Batch...
4.
So you got Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, Crosshair, then you add Echo, and then you add Omega, that's 6.
It's actually Hunter, Echo,
okay.
Wrecker.
Yeah, so they all...
Crosshair, and Omega.
You have the original 5... Well, the original 4, technically.
Plus
Echo. So the original 4 are genetically modified clones.
Defects.
And if we need to go back and... So there was a Jedi named Cypher Diaz, and he got
at a planet called Camino, and no one knew about it for some reason.
If you don't know what a clone is, I don't know why you're listening to this.
You
podcast.
Need to rewatch the prequel trilogy.
Rewatch Star Wars and then come back.
You can skip Clone Wars. It's
all
okay.
the clones are identical, genetically identical, but these 4 clones are genetically modified, so they look different, they behave different.
GMOs.
They technically have different voices, but they are all voiced by the same man, C. Bradley Baker. But they all have distinct voices because he's a master of voice acting. And then they recruited Echo, who was they call a regular clone.
After they saved him from the Citadel in season 7, and the last time we saw him was either season 4 or 5. Thought he was
of
dead.
Clone Wars.
Oh gosh, yeah, Clone Wars.
And he is now a cyborg, and so he joined the Bad
Got a
Batch.
screwdriver
And then
for an arm.
at the beginning of season 1 of Bad Batch, is the beginning of Order 66. All the other clones turned bad, or at least almost all of them.
And we get to see tiny Kanan Jarrus.
Yes.
Back when he's Caleb Doom.
And it is at this
Sounding like
point,
a 30-year-old man.
it's at this point that most of the Bad Batch choose to go against the Empire, except for Crosshair, the sniper of the group. He joins the Empire. They a lot of this goes over them protecting what they discover is a young female clone named Omega, who, as we are continuing to learn through season 3, is something very special about her, other than just the fact that she is a woman or a young woman.
Girl.
And
Girl.
then last season was pretty much them on the
Side
run,
questing.
doing various tasks, and it ended with Tech dying,
yeah.
who was, his name describes his role on the crew.
The nerd.
Echo goes off with
Rex.
Commander Rex, who was one of the most
He's
popular
a captain,
clones.
first of all.
Captain Rex.
Get it right.
When does he become a commander? Is he not a commander ever?
No. He's
Okay.
always been captain.
Interesting. Okay. Is it Commander Cody? Is that what I'm thinking
Yep.
of?
Commander Cody.
And
Wait, we haven't seen him yet.
yeah.
Oh, shoot.
And
Forgot about him.
Omega gets captured by a science facility for the Empire, and
Dr.
that's also where Crosshair has ended up. So at the beginning of season 3, we have Hunter and Wrecker together. Wrecker is the big dumb guy, the himbo, consistently Rachel's favorite kind of character, and Hunter is the leader of the group. And so they're together, and they're trying to find and save Omega, and they probably presume they might end up saving Crosshair by accident along the way.
Unfortunately.
And
The worst outcome.
the most important thing here for context is this is a Crosshair hate podcast. If you listen to our best of our first episode of our first season, you'll hear a lot of hate for this episode, for this character. Sorry. You want to describe who is Crosshair? What's the running joke?
I just don't think he's neat. He's just a nasty rat man. He just gives off bad vibes. I would not trust him with my drink.
He literally talks like a snake.
He does.
His name is Crosshair, and he's just constantly telling Omega to go away.
Personally, I disliked Crosshair before it was cool.
When he was still technically a good guy in Clone Wars season 7.
You are not bad. Just because you are a bad guy does mean you are bad. Or no, just because you are a good guy does mean, yeah, whatever that reference I'm trying to make. I didn't like him from the first introduction in season 7 because this is when they're, and I'm not all that fond of like Echo. I think he's fine. He's a guy. He's all right. I didn't like it because Rex, who I think is a pretty cool character. I'm not like obsessed with the clones,
Sure,
but they're very interesting for sure. And they're rescuing Echo. Crosshair makes a comment where he's like, if he was such a good soldier, you wouldn't have left him behind, or some stupid comment like that. And I was like, ooh, you just suck as a person. And that's where it started. I was like, that's kind of mean to say. So anyways, he's just the first season, there's like a lot of theorizing, it's the chip, it's probably not Crosshair. Then we find out in the season finale, Crosshair is actually just a jerk.
Yeah.
And he was acting on his own, at least following orders in the beginning, but he's just actually a terrible person. But he does save Omega at the end of season 1 from drowning, so that's pretty nice. But so we do not like him.
Yes. So we begin season 7. Season 3.
Oh
Sorry,
my
we're talking about Clone Wars.
gosh.
Bad Batch season 3.
Can you imagine 5 seasons of what season 2 was?
Oof,
It would have lost us.
It premiered tonight with 3 episodes.
So only 13 more.
Are you serious? There's 15 episodes for this season.
That's 16.
Oh,
Well, so 16, but I only think really like 10 or 11 weeks because there are 2 weeks that
Oh,
have
yeah.
doubles. So
Yep,
like
yep.
9 more weeks maybe.
And so the first episode is called Confined. We start off. This episode is pretty much.
Oops, all Omega.
Yeah, it's pretty much the first half of an episode, and episode 3 is the second half of this episode. Pretty much.
Yeah.
This episode is pretty much all set up, so not a lot actually happens. Pretty much everything that happens in this
It was
episode
interesting though.
doesn't. I think I respect that they attempted something a little more moody and slow, but also my immediate thought was we constantly complained about season 2 being way too slow, and my thought was just imagining Hat Man. Dave Filoni
not the Hat Man,
No,
Dave Filoni. I was like, wow.
Star Wars Hat Man going, noted, slower, good, okay, cool. We start with the stormtroopers crashing on the planet Tantus, which is where Omega is.
Hemlock's research
is being
facility
housed.
big old pyramid.
What is his title? Is he like a science officer, Hemlock, or what is?
I think he's some form of chief officer.
Yeah.
He's definitely he's a doctor, so he's got his doctorate.
And he is a very Weasley man.
He is a Weasley man. And we see him last season, in and out, not quite like, or kind of growing into like the main antagonist, really.
Yes. And so the stormtroopers who crash on their way to landing on Tantus are killed by some creatures out in the forest.
There are creatures in the jungle.
So this is what we referenced at the beginning of the episode, which is much like Kong, it's a bunch of soldiers crashing in a hostile jungle and getting killed by all the creatures there. But they didn't have any main characters with them, unfortunately, so they all get wiped out.
But, continue. I was
going to say that this episode's pretty much a lot of repetition.
It is.
We're just showing that Omega's day is the same in and out. There's a dripping sink in her very small, confined space. She's doing tally marks. I made the joke that she actually knows how to do tally marks in groups of 5, unlike Rey in episode 7, who just does one at a time. We have Omega wistfully looking out the window. We see very sad Crosshair. This is a defeated man.
I made a comment when we started the episode. I said, "What's our days without Crosshair count?" Because we joked about.
Oh yeah, how could I forget?
We joked about, it's like did the so the trailer set us back from our like 6-month jaunt or whatever. And so I asked, "What's our days without Crosshair?" And Cameron just goes, "I have an app on my phone that counts that."
So as of right now,
0.
We typically consider podcasting the moment that we have it. So if you don't remember, a year ago, there was a lot of episodes without Crosshair. Like he was like in the first episode, and then he wasn't in like 9 episodes
We saw
straight.
it was like episode
2 or
3, and then we didn't see him till like episode 8.
That's right.
Maybe
yeah.
episode.
I remember
It was like episode 11.
There was like I think it was the 11th or 12th episode. It had if we counted the trailer as a Crosshair incident, it's been 28 days. This is the photo that I used for him just snarling. I did it right as Rachel was drinking.
Ugh, that went up my nose.
It's been 28 days, 1 hour, 42 minutes since a Crosshair incident, and I'm resetting that to 0.
The worst.
Today is February 21st.
Yes. Oh, my nose is burning.
I'm so sorry. And I also, so it's really funny that a moment ago when you did your impression of Crosshair, you squeezed your nose together because while we were watching the episode, while he was talking Crosshair, you just went Squidward energy. We're seeing they're testing. They are testing the blood of a bunch of clones. And they say that they're testing it for M count, which if you're a Star Wars geek, you know that means not Mandalorian. Sorry,
I almost made that joke.
Midichlorian count.
How many Mandalorians they got in them?
Midichlorians are microscopic organisms. Microscopic organisms in your blood that give you the Force.
It's what George Lucas wanted the main cast of his sequel trilogy to shrink down to and fight.
Yes. And so they keep saying that they want to be able to transfer like blood or something. So they can about doing some sort of
they're
transfer.
looking for like a midichlorian transfer that doesn't degrade after transfer.
So they So
I wonder what they want that.
I guess what I would it would seem the implication there is if the idea would be, okay, well, if the number of midichlorians influences your connection to the Force, then you could just transfer midichlorians from someone to the other. But the implication here, I would think, is if you try to transfer midichlorians from one being to the other, they almost always just degrade, and you don't have any transfer whatsoever. They're looking for someone special whose midichlorians are strong enough to be transferred from one body to the next, which continues to across Mandalorian, Kenobi, and Bad Batch. They seem to be explaining how the research went into play for Palpatine to come back to life, which is a very strange thing to want to establish, because we already know that he comes back to life in Episode 9.
Somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure exactly
because
if that's what they're going for, because I hope it's not. I hope there's something else. But as of right now, it seems to be we are simply getting the foundations.
Well, because everyone complained that there wasn't foundation. Granted, they did bring it back randomly.
It's not really interesting retroactively, though. Like, if we had not had Episode 9 yet, and these shows were happening, and we didn't know what they were doing,
that would have been interesting.
It would have been interesting. But retroactively, we already know that he comes back to life in Episode 9, unless they're planning to bring him back to life again in Rey's movie.
I hope not.
Or in Episode 6.5.
Let the Palpatine die. Kill it if you have to.
Yeah. Nonetheless, there's very clearly a lot of research within the Empire going into how to pretty much quantify the Force. How to make it a genetic thing.
Which pulls in my question. What if Omega is Rey's mom?
Yes, you had that joke. Yeah,
what are you talking about, Joe?
They could be also explaining, where Rey came from.
Oh my gosh!
Because if you don't know, Rey is a genetic clone of Palpatine.
She is the daughter of a failed.
Okay, yes, sorry, not
clone.
yes. Thank you. Yes, she is not a failed. A clone of Palpatine had a daughter. Was it a clone or a son?
It was a failed clone.
Well, he's like, when you say failed, what do you mean failed?
Some defect. I don't think he was I think I have to read Shadows of the Empire to get a little bit more information. It's on my to be read list, but from what we know, like a failed clone, some form of defect.
I see. But he was not failed in the sense that he lived. He was a person.
Yeah, he lived. He was a person.
Yeah. And then he had a wife of something, and then they had Rey, and that's why they hid her, because they knew that Palpatine would want to use her for something. Something evil and conniving.
Evil.
And then, so that all this to say, there's all this research going on to midichlorians. Nala Se, who is a Kaminoan, who was one of the species. Thank you, Kaminoan. One of the species who created the clone. She's there, being forced to do research for them. She clearly knows that Omega's blood would be what they're looking for. So every day, they take Omega's blood sample, and she throws it away. Also, the woman who's constantly working with Omega is another female clone named Emery. So we have a lot of New Zealand, Australian adjacent accents going on, and Rachel just goes, I don't remember this episode of Bluey. That was really funny. And so every day, Nala Se destroys Omega's blood sample, and she says something.
I have a really funny reference to tell you after this episode.
Okay.
Let you know.
She says something about the subjects are not working, and Omega says the clones, and Omega says not the clones. So they're testing this. Later on,
the blood!
There is a tease to what they are making, and we don't get to see what it is. The most logical assumption is they are Palpatine clones.
Palpatine babies.
But we'll see.
Palpatine babies.
I hope it's something else. I hope it's something interesting, because we already know they can clone him. It might be again, wouldn't be very interesting, but be a little more interesting Palpatine clones. It might be
more of those Zillow monsters.
No, I'm thinking more like totally Snoke. This is how they made Snoke.
Oh,
it could. I guess none of that's interesting though, because we have the whole what was his name? Gideon was the villain of Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah, Moff Gideon.
Moff Gideon. His clones were the big reveal at the end of that season.
That is kind of interesting how all this cloning going on in a clone of him.
Yeah. So like, I don't know what they're building towards. I do hope it's something surprising. I hope we haven't guessed it yet. Meanwhile, one of Omega's jobs is to feed the various monsters that they're trying to train in this facility, and she's befriended one particular one. She's named Batcher, which you just called a space pit bull.
Tried to bite her.
And while she like gives her food to Batcher because Batcher doesn't like the fake dog food that they're giving them, and she also puts some hay in her own lunch pail. And we're not really sure why she's doing this. Then she immediately goes to Crosshair, and we're like, she's gonna feed the grass to Crosshair? Is he really that malnourished? You also had a great comment about what did you say about Crosshair at this moment? Do you remember?
Nope.
You said that his eyebrows look like they're drawn
Oh,
on.
yeah. So one of the I feel so Clone Wars and Bad Batch has a very distinctive style, and I mean Rebels does too. And one of the things that like especially in animation is that eyebrows will be a little raised, to kind of like give some definition, and it really. I kind of want to compare to maybe some previous seasons, but it really looks like his are drawn, like they're not raised. It's just the texture on the model. Mm-hmm. So it just looks like they'd given him like a brow pen and he'd drawn them.
Yep. And at this point, that as we're seeing the repetition of Omega's day, there's this very minimalistic, augmented score that I love. Like, I don't normally notice scores. Like, it takes me a long time of watching something to actually start to notice the music.
I kind of made fun of Cameron because he's like, I'm digging the score. And I went, it's a piano.
But it's modulated and it's unique, but also they threw in another instrument, and there's I don't even remember what it was, but I really like the use of music the music really helps you feel what it would be like to be in this very oppressive, sterile environment that's just all machinery.
Probably couldn't call it Jailhouse Rock.
No, definitely not. We then learned that Omega has been making her own toy out of the grass.
Her own Lulu.
Which is a nice kind of continuation of the theme of Omega trying to be a child while her child has been stolen away from her. The Bad Batch have been trying to give her a childhood anytime they could, so her trying to have that with her. Of course, then they take it away from her in a surprise search, which also brings up a lot of the troopers in this facility are clone commandos, which kind of bums me out. This design for the clone commando is taken directly from the Republic Commando video game, which is one of my personal favorite Star Wars video games, and there was 4 of them. Pretty much, the commandos were the Bad Batch before the Bad Batch, and to make them just fairly common soldiers is kind of a bummer. It would have been nice if the commandos were just when they showed up, it actually meant something. Like, oh, we are in trouble.
I feel like it did last season when they, or was it? And maybe it was first season when they rescued Gregor.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because Hunter got. Oh no, this was season 1. They rescued Gregor.
Yeah.
And the clone commando showed up, and it was like, oh
yeah. And now they're everywhere in this facility. There's a lot of them, and that kind of just
out of the snow like daisies.
And so I just wish the clones were more special in this continuity, and they're really the clone commandos. That is.
So one thing that I thought was interesting was right before that first episode ends. So I think at the beginning of the episode we see that Omega had been there for 20 days. Which is a lot. That's like almost 3 weeks. At the very end of the episode, she goes to bed. And she wakes up. Her hair is longer. And that was the first thing I was like, I think her hair's longer. And she looks older. And then you look at the wall where she's scratched in. She's been there for probably, I think, almost 100 days. Which is a lot. It's a long time.
Yeah, and I don't think most...
Or at least she stopped counting.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess theoretically, under a lot of stress, anyone... even that young would look older, but I was thinking about this. Does she age the same?
I don't think she is altered.
Okay. So she ages like a normal person.
I think she was one of 2 unaltered clones because she was Omega and Boba was Alpha.
I see. Okay, yeah. Nonetheless, I mean, I guess under that amount of stress in 100 days, you might look a little older at that young of an age.
Gaunt.
Yes, yeah, definitely skinnier, yeah. So that's pretty much the end of the episode.
Older Omega means we're probably going to get a 3rd figure. But I think she looks cute with her little ponytail.
I like her hair. It makes her look a little more like a person. I think that...
Children aren't people, Cameron, 2024.
I don't know. Her previous haircut was kind of cartoony. But at the end of the episode, Emery, the older female clone, returns the toy.
Yeah,
showing that she has a bit of humanity. Outside of that, she's very like mechanical and says the same thing every day, has very little emotion. There's a moment later, but she... you mentioned how she's very gaslighty. She's just constantly telling you what you think.
Girl boss.
Any final notes on this episode before we move on?
Nope.
So episode 2 is called Paths Unknown. We then hop over to Hunter and Rekka. And they, not really an important plot point, but I want to talk about the voice actress. They meet with a queen of sorts to get some information on potentially where Omega might be.
Yes, but before you move on to that, that's a reoccurring character.
Is she?
No, not him. Her son.
Okay. I don't remember.
In season 2, I believe it's I think it's season. The seasons run together. There is a previous arc where the Pikes show up in Sid's bar, and they're run out by this guy Durand, which is his last name. He has crossed the Pikes. He's made a deal with them, and part of the deal is that I don't know if Sid owes him money. Either way, they're trying to transport spice, and the Bad Batch kind of wrecks it and ultimately screws him over with the Pikes. And if you've really watched Book of Boba Fett or other Clone Wars, the Pikes are not to be messed with. They're a crime syndicate just like the Hutts. They run a lot of spice, which is drug. And so they cut off his horn, but they leave him with his life. So that is him. And that lady you're talking about, that's his mom. So they're like another crime lord family.
I see.
So that was interesting to see that him as a returning character, Durand.
Well, Lady Durand, his mother, I presume.
Mommy Durand.
Or older sister or something.
No, that was his mom.
I could tell immediately that this is not a particularly strong voice performance and not very cartoon voice performance. This is probably a famous actress. I was right. It's Angelica Houston, who's an actress who's been around for a long time. She's probably most famous for playing Morticia Addams in the 90s, and she's in multiple Wes Anderson films. She was also the voice of, very recently, I had it here a second ago. Where is it? The Sith Mother in Star Wars Visions Volume 2.
Nice.
So she's previously played a Star Wars character. So that's a cool connection to a previous thing that we talked about. They get the information they need. They leave. That episode is just kind of some Star Wars world building. It's not really relevant. They might come back. It might be relevant later, but as of right now, it's not. They go to this planet. They find a totally abandoned
previous lab that was Hemlock's.
Yeah. And at this point, they encounter 3 young clones who were left over from when this base was abandoned.
In operation.
Now, we guess that these 3 clones were probably voiced by the original Boba Fett.
Logan.
Not Logan Lerman, but
No.
I'm where is that? This is episode 2.
Wait, it's not.
Well, 1 is.
Nice.
So there's an older one and then 2 younger ones. Mm-hmm. I had it up. I cannot find this episode's.
Is it Mox? The older one.
Sorry, I'm trying. I thought that I had this open. I am struggling to find it. Paths Unknown. Here we go. So Mox, the older one, is Daniel Logan, the original actor who played young Boba Fett.
I was gonna say
in episode 2. The other 2 are voiced by Julian Dennison, who is a New Zealand actor who has been made famous by Taika Waititi because he was in Taika Waititi's film Hunt for the Wilder People. He was also in, I totally forgot about this until just now seeing it, he's in Godzilla vs. Kong.
Nice!
And he's also in Deadpool 2. So he's a delightful young Kiwi actor. So maintaining the tradition of New Zealanders playing clones other than D. Bradley Baker for some reason. So this is a fun inclusion to have him play some young clones.
Young clones.
But he's not hamming it up. Like, I think Omega's voice performance is fun and lovable, but it is a bit much on the New Zealand accent.
I think that's just her voice, Cameron.
I don't. Maybe. I don't know. She feels like... Because she is like 30-something years old. I think she's playing it up to try to sound young.
They got to age her up.
But these two performances as the three young clones is a lot more subtle, I think. And makes these characters feel a little more real. So they don't really want to help our two. It is the Bad Batch, technically, even though it's only two of them. The Sad Batch is what we'll call them for right now.
Echoes. They are really sad. That ship is so empty with just the two of them.
Yeah, and it's got the toy sitting
Gonky.
there. And Gonky, yes.
The most important part.
Uh-huh.
Gonky honks.
And so one of the clones helps them to go and...
Deke.
They go through and look at the facility. This whole area is infested with what is called...
Slithervines.
Slithervines, which is a biological weapon. Well, it's technically biological weapon. It's like a disease. I don't know. Like it's a biologically engineered
it was a
animal
It was like
creature.
a biological warfare thing.
It's these living vines, which is quite funny because I've been watching recently the Last of Us television show, which is they can't touch the virus, not the virus, but they like the fungus that is part of that disease. So it's kind of similar to that. But so they go into the facility.
They're trying to get information on where the base was moved to.
I feel like this is one of the very first times in this show that I've actually enjoyed a one-off adventure, because I think that they actually did something interesting and like there was legitimate tension with this creature. I can hear that really loudly. Rachel is drawing on her own table. What would your mother say?
First of all,
Rachel's very offended.
You leave my mother out of this. Second of all, she would not be surprised. But so one thing that was kind of interesting was these vine things. So
Sure.
they're definitely both animalistic as well as plants. And
Sure.
honestly, it really had some interesting references to many other things. So not only were we kind of similar to the cordyceps virus from The Last of Us, but once they cut a bit off of it, like one of the tendrils, and it merged into this little four-legged thing that
Bitey
looked like
quadruped is what I wrote down.
That looked like a couple of things. You said it was very The Thing.
Yes. Which, if you've never seen The Thing, it's a 80s
with
science
Kurt
fiction
Russell.
film with Kurt Russell, our boy, and it's this alien that takes over people and makes
It's a mimic, essentially.
and it mimics them. But
It's
if you cut
very
off
good.
pieces of it, those pieces come to life, like a head or a hand.
But it turns into that bitey quadruped, and it looks like something from the Flood from Halo.
Yes,
And then it also kind of gives some alien vibes as well, with
Yeah.
the derelict ship scurrying around in the vents. So
But this is a unique combination of these things. While it's kind of similar to all these things we're talking about, it's not exactly like any one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing is scary. So I actually quite enjoyed, like, while I'm very ready for this show to get to the point after 2 seasons of not, like, I expected there to be, I mean, ultimately the thing that we're looking forward to, that we're pretty sure we're going to get this season, is the Clone Rebellion.
Woo!
I expected to see that in season 1. We're now in season 3, and we're not even close, but hopefully we'll get it because we know this is the last season. Nonetheless, I didn't feel too impatient with this episode.
No,
I felt like
they were looking.
this is enjoyable.
And it, in a way, it was furthering the plot because they were looking for information to find Omega. So they managed to hack into the remaining terminal. Things look pretty grim. We don't know if they're going to make it out. And then the other two, Mox and the other, whose name I don't know, the two kids, they were going to steal the Bad Batch's ship.
I don't know why we found this so funny, but like the moment that we got the hint that they were going to consider stealing their ship, we're like, oh no.
Yeah,
We knew they probably weren't, but there's always a chance.
Like, they managed to hotwire it, and they were probably about to steal it when Deke called in a mayday to them, and then they show up, they save the Bad Batch, they blow up. It's another little tentacle monster thing. What else is Star Wars if not
sure
buried monsters with sharp kraken mouths?
And it ends up, and that's something you said. You said, "Oh no, someone's about to get krakened," or Jack Sparrow. Yeah, and what was I gonna say about this? It's very Sarlacc pit.
It
this
is
creature.
just wet.
So I wonder if they used some of that DNA to create this thing.
They could have. So they get rescued. Sorry,
to answer your question, Deke and Stack are the
and
two
Stack,
younger
okay.
clones.
So they rescue the kids, the 3 young men, and my comment was, Bad Batch season 3 episode 2, the Bad Batch adopts more children. And so Hunter and Wrecker said, we're going to take you to a safe place, and we went, ugh, Pabu. Just said, where? An island. We're like, ugh.
Yeah.
But actually, they did not take us to Pabu, so maybe they heard our complaints specifically from last season.
Yeah.
It was just implied. So they didn't get the exact location of the new lab, but they got a sector. So that's a start. So that's really kind of where it ends.
Yeah, so this was just kind of,
Seeing where everyone's at right now.
So many shows, and I guess you could, spoiler, but Omega escapes Tantus at the end of episode 3. I say this to say, so many shows have a cliffhanger at the end of the season, and at the beginning of the next season, they immediately rectify it. While you could say...
Like season 2 Mandalorian.
Absolutely, 100%.
As season 3
Absolutely.
and Book of Boba Fett, I mean.
Yeah. While you could consider these first 3 episodes one episode, the season premiere, and they did quickly rectify that Omega was being captured, I do think that at the very least, this episode provides you to be a little bit of space so that the Bad Batch are not just all immediately back together.
Yeah,
Like
it's been like
time.
3 months.
They have some time to be the Sad Batch.
The saddest batch.
So on to episode 3, Shadows of Tantis. So Emery is now going to be the one to do the blood test because Nala Se has been called to meet with
Dr.
Hemlock and a quote-unquote special guest.
Oh, who could that be?
Yeah. So now Nala Se is like, oh, crap. Emery's going to test Omega's blood and figure out.
They're going to know.
And so Nala Se tells Omega that she needs to escape. And then who's the special guest? We guessed it pretty quickly. Palpy himself.
Omega steals Nala Se's data pad, which has lots of power for her to just be leaving that around.
Yeah, but...
iPad baby. I can't believe I didn't make an iPad baby joke. Dang it!
And the way you use the data pad to get in and out of doors is you like have to set it in this slot.
It's like a key card.
But like you have to put it in the slot. It's not like you like hold it up to a console.
It's not like an Apple Pay situation.
You have to put it all the way in this slot like a cartridge, like a Super Nintendo cartridge, and then pull it all the way out. Very inefficient, I think. But Hemlock is talking up Palpy.
Before we get to that,
Palpatron.
We saw you had a really funny comment because it kind of did another routine of kind of what the schedule looks like, like what the daily going ons look like. And there's a scene where a couple of the clones get taken out of a circular room, and I made a joke that they just put them all in a big centrifuge and spun them around. But then there was a different looking clone, and I was like, "Well, who is that?" Because he looked different, and he looked cool, and he looked like a figure I'd buy if they make one. And Cameron, you just said that's one of those spy clones, and you said it's one of those guns with the serial number rubbed on.
Which I did make that joke last season.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, it was funny enough that you said it again, and it was still funny. So
Twice
it
as
just
nice.
It's got a good chuckle out of me.
Thank you. I'm glad that you found that funny.
Disclaimer: own your firearms legally. But anyways, moving on.
And so Neko.
Wait, no. Before we get to Palpatine, you had another really funny comment. I'm sorry. Anyways, you were firing off some snarky comments this time around because Nala Se is talking to Omega and is like, you have to run before they run your samples. And Nala says like, you gotta go. It's not gonna be good for you. She doesn't tell her why, but you have to go. And Omega says, is that why you've been destroying my samples? And Cameron just says, Omega, more like Odumma.
I cannot believe that's on the record that I made that joke.
You're welcome. And then in this same scene, Cameron also said, Nala sounds like she's reading Dr. Seuss to children.
She's like whispering, but also like almost rhyming.
Like she sounds different in this season than she previously was.
She sounds like someone who's like reading a children's book.
She does. She's taking a lot of pauses. But so Palpy shows up and they're here to discuss a project, which is so very much not secretly named, called Project Necromancer. Wonder what that could mean by anything.
And so then what do we get from there?
Omega sneaking around. Oh, she kicks a mouse droid.
The mouse droid tries to come into the elevator with it. She just kicks it, and the door closes, and it runs into the door again out of anger. Mouse droid humor is always funny.
So mouse droids are our favorite.
She goes and she breaks out Crosshair, and Crosshair's scream as he breaks out is so darn funny. This man has been seething with rage for months.
Sounded extra Squidwardy.
He finally got to release that pent-up anger.
So, then they start sneaking around. The only ship that currently is not grounded is Palpatine's ship right now, which is unfortunate. There's no way they're going to sneak on. I would have found it so funny if they stole the Emperor's ship. That would have been good. That would have been... They probably couldn't have done it. But
it would have been great if Palpatine comes back and he's like, "Where's my ship?"
So
they stole it. We backtrack just real fast. So throughout the first episode and this episode, Omega keeps going back and talking to pretty much. Crosshair is stuck in his cell and has no choice but to sit and listen to Omega. Mostly trauma dumping on him, but she keeps saying that she's not going to leave without him. And he's like, no, you won. Why don't just leave? If you have the chance, I would leave and I would not come back for you. And the fact that she does end up saving him and proves herself right, I find that kind of endearing. Just like that she kept her promise.
She better than me for real.
I respect that as a character. And it's like, it's kind of obvious, but I don't know. It feels like a genuine character moment that she said she would do it. She did it.
This is a certified Omega moment.
And so there they go to steal a ship, and as usual, there are stormtroopers standing around talking in exposition. Just like, oh man, can you believe they've?
Can you believe the Emperor's here?
Can you believe they've actually they grounded all the ships while they're
Good thing there's no prisoners around here to hear us.
Yeah. So, what would have been funny if they were talking about the newest ship model, though.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite recurring jokes. Oh, new ship's terrible. Anyways, so we get some scenes of them sneaking around, but then it also goes back and forth of Hemlock showing Palpatine around, and we get into this red and black room, which is very Sithy, and part of like the success of the experiments that they're doing. So they kind of show that around. Palpatine's like, "Looks good, my guy."
What a devilishly handsome clone you've made of me.
Sure hope nothing bad happens to him. So they're sneaking around, and then part of Omega's as she was taking care of the dog, and she actually lost those privileges because she acted out.
She killed a robot.
She killed the robot. So she'd befriended one of the Lurkas, and so she's like, well, if we can't leave through a ship, let's leave through the dog tunnels, and then they're gonna try to find that shuttle that crashed like 4 months ago.
And during all this, as they're escaping, it keeps cutting back to this slowly rotating wheel of blood samples.
Yes, where Omega's is. They're in the process of testing it.
And I thought this was a
not yet.
really great mechanism of like building tension, because this thing is slowly rotating.
Because the second they find out.
And so while the first episode is not great, in my opinion, other than I kind of respect the slow pace, it did set up a lot of these things. It set up these relationships. It set up the pace of this life. It set up the characters' interactions, and it established this thing. Like, we saw a lot of shots of this thing rotating. So when we are cutting back to it, we know exactly what it is, what's happening. It's really great, honestly.
Yeah. So they get to the dog tunnels. And the reason why Omega lost her dog privileges is because she healed one, made it feel better, but because she
domesticated it.
Quote unquote domesticated it, they were like, we got to put it down. And so she didn't like that, so she set it free. And that's where she lost her privileges. And so they make it there. They are about to escape, and Emery shows up. And Emery is trying to stop Omega. She's like, if you come back, I will say nothing. She's like, I will not say anything. And they're like, we're not leaving. And she goes, and I have no choice but to do this, and hits her calm Mayday or whatever. And I was so annoyed because this is the first time Crosshair has ever hesitated shooting someone, even if he just stunned her.
Yeah.
It would have,
we
should
see him switch to stun, which is very out of character. They might call it character growth. I call bullcrap.
I call cowardice.
Shoot her!
Shoot her! Yeah, it really could have been avoided because if I'm trying to escape an imperial prison, essentially, and someone is stopping me from doing that, and they start saying, then I have no choice. Bam! Bam!
Even a shoot her hand.
Yeah, shoot her hand. Like, there is no, like, why? Just take her out. But like I said, they don't ask me. So the comm goes off. Palpatine just barely leaves, and one of the commandos, I think this one is like Scorch. I think that's his name. Or maybe that's the name from Republic Commandos.
I've heard people presume that this is him.
Scorch. With Hemlock, the comm gets through, and then they go into lockdown because Crosshair and Omega are missing. They start taking the tunnel to get out. They get out just in the nick of time, and then the dogs are released. So thus starts the hunt for Omega and Crosshair through the woods. They also encounter, what was it called? A Hydrax?
I don't know.
It's like a weird looking Bigfoot cat thing that fortunately distracts the dogs that were sent after them.
Yep.
They're able to get away. They get to the shuttle, but not before another shuttle full of stormtroopers comes in. Through some shenanigans, they manage to distract all the stormtroopers and hijack the shuttle.
One important moment here is Crosshair misses a shot.
Yes.
And he looks at his shaking hand in frustration, which is really interesting.
And that was something Omega asked him earlier. She goes, is your hand getting worse? And he's like, no.
Oh, I missed that. Okay. So
yeah.
they did
So
set that up.
we've seen his hand shaking in the past couple episodes. So he misses, but
there's a famous scene from the Western comedy, Blazing Saddles, where he's like, I used to be, it's none of the racist jokes about you. That's what you're worried about. He's like, I used to be the fastest shooter in the West, but now I can't shoot. Like, you see that? He's like, your hand looks steady. Yeah, but this is my shooting hand. His other hand is just shaking uncontrollably.
Yeah. So they managed to get into the shuttle. Sorry, I just took over the summarization from you.
You're good.
They managed to get into the shuttle. And I was actually really thinking, like, there's no way they're getting out of here. This is probably just going to be a failed one. They're going to get back and shut down into lockdown. So they managed to get into the ship. And what else helps them? The Lurka.
Batchy.
Yeah, Batcher
Batcher
shows up to protect Omega and just starts murking these stormtroopers. So they save Batcher. They get out into the sky, and they are ready to shoot them down. When Emery comes in and tells them to stop shooting because they've tested Omega's blood. And it is a match. And as they say, the midichlorians have not. It is a perfect match, essentially.
Real fast, funny detail that I loved. They, this episode's kind of brutal. Omega gets in the ship. She goes up to the pilot and, like, point blank to the back of his neck, stuns him. And then when Crosshair gets in the ship, he, like, pops open the hatch and just dumps the body out. And the fact that we see the body just slump on the ground.
He is not waking up.
One of my favorite things
He's not waking
in any sort of media is, like, people ragdolling to the ground, and this just really hit that scratch for me.
If I had a nickel for each season
Scratch
that
that
had a trooper fall.
We know he's not still falling though, because it wasn't down an infinite abyss. Yeah, unfortunately we did not add to our ranks of people who are still falling.
We didn't put tech in that.
We did. We talked about that back in the day.
I don't remember. So Hemlock realizes that, and he orders them to stop shooting because he's like, "We need her alive."
But and before this, Palpatine and Hemlock are walking out of the facility, and Palpatine is just handing out all sorts of praise to Hemlock.
I know.
Palp loves this guy. He's
Palp's
like,
this
"Oh,
guy's
you're into gross science like I am. Yes, good. Let the gross science flow through you."
like that.
I have never seen Palpatine be this complimentary towards someone. And
Certainly not towards Vader.
Hemlock is loving it,
and he manages to throw in hey, if I'm promoted to chief director of science,
actually, if I was
I could do
Ministry
more.
of Science,
Minister of Science. I don't know.
If you just let me just be the boss of everyone.
Yeah. And Palpatine's like, I can't do it. I can't do
all in good time.
Yeah, all in good time. Anyways, so they realize Omega's is a perfect match, and so like, we need her alive. They stop firing. They manage to get out into space.
Oh, with Batcher.
Yes,
gets
I
on
said
the ship.
yeah.
You
I said
that?
with
Okay.
Batcher.
Yeah.
Omega, Crosshair, and Batcher jump into hyperspace, and they're gone. And so, Hemlock makes a comment. Everyone's kind of like, "Oh shoot, well, what do we do now?" And Hemlock makes a comment. I wrote this down. He says, "I have the full resources of the Empire at my disposal. We will find her." My thought is, are we? that just oozes a threat. Are we going to get a Vader appearance?
Be all for it.
So Hemlock is not getting promoted after this. Just going to throw that out there. Promotion in the trash. He's not getting it.
Trash man.
So that's where it ends.
Yes. So let's start.
It is.
We're
gonna get this whole season is gonna be like American Tail, like that mouse movie.
They keep missing each other.
They keep missing each other.
They keep barely missing each other's path. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of hate those stories.
Yeah. I think I'm down for some Crosshair Omega adventures. I think they contrast nicely.
Blasphemy.
Let the Sad Batch be sad for a little bit. Gosh, don't spend any time on Pabu though, please.
I think we're gonna get it.
Overall though, I'm happy with this opening. I think but also last season started pretty strong too.
It did.
So we'll see.
And honestly, we talked about this last time. Tech needs to stay dead. Tech
Agreed.
needs to stay. I will actually be really disappointed if he is somehow alive. I think it'll.
Agreed.
I've talked about this before, so I won't get on the soapbox too much. But like we joke, oh, no body, no death. At some point, it cheapens it. It'll cheapen his sacrifice if he just comes back. Now, I guess if they were to make a clone of him that has no memories and it is exactly just like a physical clone, I think that would be interesting. That could maybe put some dynamics. But like to bring. Did you just see the mic swing away from me? I guess that's my sign to be done off my soapbox.
So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But yeah. So on to the movie. We're talking about a whole dang movie now. Kong Skull Island, the second film in the kaiju verse. I'm gonna see any context here for this movie.
It's in the 1970s post Vietnam.
Yes. I was gonna see if there's any
immediate Vietnam.
There is, obviously they'll be more relevant in the fourth movie in this series, but there is precedent for Kong and Godzilla existing in the same universe. Just one movie, I believe, previously, the classic Godzilla versus King Kong from the 60s. So it is
Tug's collar. That was uncomfortable.
And the fact that Godzilla himself constantly had other monsters in his movies, it's a decent foundation for a shared universe in this modern day where people keep trying to make shared universes but don't even get more than one movie into it. I'm looking at you, Dark Universe, Tom Cruise Mummy movie.
We live in the darkest universe.
Yeah. And retroactively, this movie has a ton of connections. Namely, John Goodman as Bill Randa.
John Goodman. What a good man.
I'm going to see if there's anything about the production of this that's interesting. The man who would go on to direct hold on. So this was originally supposed to be directed by Adam Wingard, who's directed both Godzilla Kong movies. And he was chosen by Peter Jackson, who made the 2005 King Kong movie. So that's really interesting. Jackson later suggested Guillermo del Toro. Always would love to see Guillermo del Toro. Now, del Toro did do Pacific Rim, so always happy with that.
Some feet shots of Kong, probably.
The job was offered to Joe Cornish, which is really interesting. Joe Cornish did a really great British science fiction film which was the big breakout for John Boyega, which was called Attack the Block. The job ended up with Jordan Von Roberts, he was most notable for a movie called Kings of Summer. It's the only other movie he's made. I'm trying to see if this is any. Yeah, the movie's pretty straightforward, actually. It's pretty much, if you don't know, King Kong comes from Skull Island. That's where they find him. It's an island where prehistoric things still live.
Call it the island that God forgot about.
Yeah, there's a lot of prehistoric creatures, a lot of things that are much larger than they should be. A lot of people, like Peter Jackson, who made the 2005 remake. In this movie, they like to take a lot of inspiration for Skull Island itself from a deleted scene from the original movie where they get attacked by large bugs. So that tends to be large bugs tends to be a reoccurring theme. And yeah, so the movie. Where do we start off? Where's the movie start off? Rachel?
Well, are we starting off with our 3 good, 3 bad, or are we doing a basic?
Oh yeah, let's broad overview.
I was going to talk about the start anyways.
Pretty much, John Goodman convinces the government that the Russians are going to do this, so we need to do it first.
And if anything's going to get the government post Cold War ready, they're going to be like, "Oh, the Russians!"
And they grab a platoon or a squad that's shipping back from Vietnam right as the war has ended, and they're headed by Sam Jackson.
And our other main characters are Bill Randa, a couple of people from Monarch. Some people from, I think, another science division. And then we have Brie Larson as a
war photographer.
Or
she says about herself, an anti-war photographer.
An anti-war photographer. And then we have
Tom Hiddleston, aka Loki himself, as a mercenary, like a tracker.
Yeah, previous British Navy, something, I don't know, some guy. So that's our cast. Wide range of cast.
Also in there, see actors. Sam Jackson, leader of the military unit. Anyone else super notable? There's one actor that we will mention in a second. The other people you might know, but actually one of the most funny ones in here actually is Toby Kebbell is one of the soldiers. He's also the motion capture for Kong, which is really great because he also did motion capture for Koba, the villain ape from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Anyways, so they get there. They know that they'll find something. John Goodman knows, don't tell people there's going to be a monster. They don't know what monsters will be there. But they know they're...
Oh, sorry.
They know there will be something there. They don't know what...
Can you move that closer?
Oh, yeah. And
for legal reasons, they are on a geographical survey.
Yeah. They get there, and they immediately run into Kong.
They start dropping depth charges on the ground.
And Kong wipes out most of their helicopters. We also forgot to mention the name of the ship they come in on is called the Athena.
She stood up.
And so...
She's been summoned. She's walking over camera.
Our group is split into 2 at this point. Brie Larson and...
Conrad.
And Tom Hiddleston and a few of the others. They end up meeting the natives.
The iwi.
And we've got to mention that the movie starts in World War II.
I was going to talk about
And an American and a Japanese soldier crash land. They fight and they encounter Kong, and the movie cuts to the quote unquote modern day, the 70s. We then encounter the American soldier played by John C. Reilly.
Hank Marlowe.
One of my favorite personal actors, who's most known for probably Step Brothers. He stars opposite Will Ferrell in that movie. He's been in a ton of movies. He's also the voice of Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh, she crunching. I think it's having a snack.
Anything else people might know John C. Reilly from? He's been in a ton of movies. Look him up. You probably know him. He's great. He's far and away the star of this movie. He
is.
The movie should have, much like Godzilla 2014, there's a secondary character who should be the main character. Because I would love to have seen more of what him and as is said through exposition, he ended up befriending the Japanese man, and they lived together on this island, and then eventually the Japanese man passed away. I would have loved to have seen that. Like them surviving together on this island and slowly becoming friends. That would have been great. Unfortunately, we don't get any of that. The other crew, which is mostly the soldiers and Sam Jackson and John Goodman, they're trying pretty much, the subtext there is Sam Jackson's character is this lifelong soldier. They just lost the war in Vietnam and he's pissed. He's going to take out his anger on Kong. And that is obviously a bad idea. He does, and then the movie just goes on, and they're all trying to survive and get to the other side of the island before their ship comes to rescue them.
Without waking up the school crawlers. Without dying, really.
Yes.
Not really, without dying. That's the thing.
So what John C. Reilly's character, what was his name again?
Hank Marlowe.
Hank explains is Kong is king on this island. He's the protector. This island is got a hold to the hollow earth here. And there are creatures coming out of it, especially what are called skull crawlers, which are these like two-armed, like they're like a lizard thing, but they have two arms. So they have a skull on the outside of their head, and they are freaky. And they are the only thing strong enough to kill Kong. So he has to kill the little ones while they're little.
And so they are what killed Kong's parents.
Yes.
So the Kongs and the skull crawlers have just been beef-long decades, or decades-long beef. They are always fighting. So they are what killed Kong's parents, which is a very they made a comic about it. I'll read an excerpt from it when we talk more about it. But so yeah, that's the ultimate threat. Ultimate goal: get off the island.
Yes.
New goal: survive.
So what's your first positive, Rachel?
That opening is probably one of my favorite openings in a movie ever.
It's pretty good.
The scene between, so the character's name, so it's Hank Marlowe is the American soldier, and then Gunpei Yokari is the Japanese soldier. Very tense. Honestly, I think when you start it, it's really kind of one of those movies where you're like, what are we watching? Because, it starts at the Kong Skull Island. It starts off in 1944, I think.
Yeah.
Really no dialogue. They're just fighting and running through the woods, the jungle, and they finally come to a precipice and they're fighting. Really hand-to-hand combat. They've wasted all their ammo, missing each other. They're fighting, and really as Gunpei is honestly about to kill Hank Marlowe, a big hand comes over the cliff. And it stops both of them. Honestly valid. I would probably stop too. And we get our first look at Kong. And then it just fades into I don't know, the end of Vietnam, or it fades into when we see Bill Randa, I think, or the opening credits of like the Monarch film. So anyways, it's just it's such a good start. Like I said, I'm with you. I really think I really wish the movie had kind of been about them. Or if we could get something about them, but very enjoyable. Should I go through all of my good things?
I'll give one. I'm talking about introductions. Just the first appearance of Kong in this movie is just incredible. So pretty much you have these soldiers who just lost Vietnam. They're getting to show up and just bomb the heck out of this island. They're having a blast. They're having a good time. And then Kong shows up and wrecks their stuff. and Kong fighting, like, you have the classic imagery of Kong fighting the biplanes on top of the
Empire State
Building. This feels way more engaged. Like this Kong fighting these helicopters is so interesting. One, he can be injured by them. They're shooting him. He like grabs the blades of one and gets injured. Yeah. It's a credible introduction to this character.
And the first, like, everything's going fine. They're playing it's not Fortunate Son, but it's a similar song of the time as they're dropping depth charges, just destroying really kind of the ecosystem. And we don't even see Kong. The first time something goes wrong, what happens is suddenly one of the helicopters is just taken out by a tree, javelin style, straight through the windshield. And it's a moment where you're like, you're like, about that. What? And then it happens again. And it's like the camera pans, everyone looks forward, and it's just Kong.
Yes.
Just massive, massive Kong. And he's ready to throw down.
Yes, I love it. And much like Godzilla in the other films in this series, Kong has personality conveyed through his mannerisms, conveyed through his face and the way he behaves. This is a character. He's not just a monster. He has personality, and his anger, because like Godzilla has anger, but it feels much more pointed. It feels much more like he's got a job to do and he's going to accomplish it. And it takes a lot to get him really riled up, which we will see in the next movie. Kong is like got the shortest fuse of anything on the planet.
They also showed up and started bombing his house.
Yeah, understandably. When he's got that sort of a fuse and you show up bombing, he's gonna.
And you know what that wakes up?
The Skullcrawlers.
Yeah.
But like Kong is just ready for a fight at any given moment, and so just his fiery nature is so fun.
He's mad from the get-go.
Do you have a negative or like
I thought we were doing 3 good, 3 bad, 3 3 like
I feel like I enjoy like alternating, so like we don't have to do all the negatives and all the positives. We can do whatever you want, but like I feel like I prefer to end on a positive because we like the movie, so I don't want to end on negatives.
I think my biggest ick with the film is when we first, for context. So when we were first introduced to the Iwi, the indigenous people of the island, it's also when we're first introduced to Hank Marlowe. You know, Hank Marlowe shows up and he's like, "Whoa, there's people here." You know, like obviously not Iwi. There are various shots of the Iwi around them. There's one scene where one of the Iwis is Brie Larson painted up. And it just, I don't know. And it's very obviously, I wouldn't say it's blackface. She's very obviously like painted up with like mud and body paint, but it's still just, it's so odd.
And once you realize it, it's like, because she's a very distinct looking person.
She is.
She's very kind of a cartoony looking person. She's got really big eyes.
Big whites of eyes.
So once you realize it's her, and they keep cutting back to a close-up of her. Like if she was in the background, it'd be one thing.
But she's right
But she's right up in the camera.
And it's just so... Well, and once you know about it, once you like know it, the whole time you're waiting for like, oh yeah, there's that scene where Brie Larson's painted up. It's just so odd.
Yes. Yeah, good point.
Big ick.
My first negative would be, I think... we'll talk about Brie Larson. This movie has an incredible, incredible cast, and our 2 leads are very dull. I love Brie Larson. I think she's really phenomenal.
I'm surprised you didn't say the long exposure scene.
I don't fully know what you mean.
The long exposure camera shot she was trying to take.
Oh, yeah. No, Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston just have very little to do. I like them more now than I did at the time. When I saw this movie, I was really disappointed. I thought they were just okay on this viewing, but still, like...
They kind of balance off of each other's blandness, I guess.
Like Sam Jackson and John C. Reilly, and also the guy who plays Cole, Shea Wiggum, who's just a character, one of the like those guys that you know his face. He's been in a ton of movies. Most of the soldiers, they're all given great performances. They're all just a lot of fun. Everyone else has a lot of personality. It's a great ensemble. The two leads are just like there, and it really emphasizes how much Bill Randa and or Hank Marlowe should have been the main characters, but also or Sam Jackson's character is also super interesting. So I would say, the leads really bring the movie down for me. What's your next positive?
The scaling is so good in this film. You feel tiny.
But Godzilla is a hairy creature. He doesn't have scales like Godzilla.
You just said Godzilla.
I mean, I meant Kong. I screwed up my own joke.
You did.
Kong is a hairy creature.
It also didn't make sense.
Yep. Thank you. Anyways,
so
continue.
The scaling of this film is really good because the way each scene is shot, it feels, it's not like found footage by any means, but most times it's from the perspective of our human cast looking at something. And it just feels massive and untamable, this whole new world. There's a scene where I can't remember his name. He's the one who's writing to his son the whole time.
Yeah,
is that
cool? that is
Chaplin.
So that is the actor I
me.
mentioned earlier who also plays Kong. Totally.
Anyways,
Jack Chapman, played by Toby Kebbell.
So he's getting a drink of water it's like in a bay, and Kong comes around the corner, and it just feels massive.
Sure.
So I think it's just the scaling. I like the scaling. I think some of the next movies lose that, and they don't feel like.
I agree.
We can talk about that more in Godzilla versus Kong, alluding to that. But so that it feels consistent, and it really feels like, holy crap, that is a very large spider. When they're in the bamboo.
Yes.
That thing is called a mother long legs, FYI.
Yeah, so that transitions very nicely into what I want to talk about, which is just the variety of creatures.
Dang
in
it,
this
that was
movie.
my third point.
I really love the variety of creatures. So you have the mother long leg, which is this big spider thing whose legs look like bamboo trees, and it just starts sticking guys with her legs
because it uses those legs to stab and suck.
Yes.
Juices.
And
out.
it also has these long tendrils, and it also has crab arms. So it pretty much grabs one of our characters and is snipping at him with the arms, and it's just a very cool, very creepy creature. Mm-hmm. It was actually using webbing to grab the guy, not tendrils. And they start chopping off the legs, and goo's going everywhere. It's super great. You have a spore mantis.
Yep.
Which is just a big. I love that all the creatures aren't necessarily not all the creatures are aggressive. This is just a big, pretty much looks like an ant that also looks like a log, and he's just sweet, and he's just there, and I like him.
He dipped real fast. He knew that skull crawler was there. We also see a skur buffalo, a couple.
Yes, which are just really, really big buffalo, but they're nicely designed. They have a lot of texture to them and personality. Mm-hmm. Another docile creature. You have a Meyer squid, which has just a really cool fight with Kong. Kong pretty much just sits down in the water after the first big fight, and the tentacles just come out of nowhere and grab him.
How deep is that bay?
The deepness of water in these movies is likely to vary at any time. And that's a nice...
because Chapman was standing in that water.
That squid is a nice callback to the squid or octopus that Kong fights in the original Godzilla vs. Kong, which was just a real squid that was crawling around on the set. You have the leaf wings, which are these
those are the things in the trees that Samuel or one of the soldiers shot where he's like, that's one ugly Blake bird.
Yeah, they're pretty much little pterodactyl things, but they've got saws for nose. So they will they grab a guy at one point and go straight through him and saw or through his arm. Those things are freaky. And that's the majority of and then of course the skull crawlers, which are super scary and are I love that the emphasis in these movies is not humans versus one monster. It's humans surviving, monsters fighting.
We also see a triceratops skull. Just casual triceratops. Which feels kind of more like a callback to Peter Jackson's Skull Island, which is more dinosaur in inspiration. A lot of the monsters there are dinosaurs. So yeah, That was actually my third positive point, just the diversity of kaiju in this island.
Yeah, great. Final negative thoughts?
John Goodman feels wasted in this film.
I agree. Yeah, I forgot how just suddenly he dies.
Yeah.
Especially retroactively now that he is this important monarch figure. We just set this whole season with this character.
Gets taken out because his flash went off. That sucks.
Yeah, he's built up as this like very morally ambiguous character, and he doesn't end up having much of an arc. Like Sam Jackson's character, while he's very suddenly killed, does provide a specific role in the movie, and you don't feel like he's wasted whatsoever. But yeah, John Goodman, 1, goes out very unexpectedly. 2, retroactively, the characterization of him in this movie does not match at all the character that we see in Monarch.
Unless it's a situation of he just kind of came like this crazy old man to the government after the loss of his wife.
I think there's an interesting way to get from his character in Monarch to the character here.
But even then, his son, Hiroshi, still would have been around.
That's true.
Dad's just traipsing off anywhere.
And I just feel like
odd.
it's a mistake of Monarch that they did not write the character in Monarch in a way that matches this character, because
Kooky old man.
This character is not talking about a wife who died.
No.
This character only mentions that his Navy ship was attacked by a monster.
Yeah.
Like his motivations here do not line up at all with the character from Monarch. And so that's not this movie's mistake. That is Monarch's mistake. But when you're trying to have a shared universe,
when you add to the long list of Monarch Legacy of Monsters mistakes, that's one
Legacy of mistakes. We're like, and yeah, so I agree with all that. But yeah, I would say, generally my big summary of my negative of this movie is I can't quite put my finger on it. There is something missing in this movie, and it's probably that main character slot. But while I like all the pieces of this movie, I like a lot of the performances. I think it looks great. I like how gross and creepy it is. I think I love the Vietnam War aesthetic to it. I find myself every time I watch this movie a little bit bored in the middle, and I think it's because while I think Godzilla 2014 has a very specific purpose to it. You know what everyone's trying to accomplish, the monsters and the humans. While I love Kong fighting the monsters, he doesn't have a specific objective. And he ends up having the moment where he saves Brie Larson, your classic Godzilla. It comes out of nowhere. Does not make any sense. And this movie has...
And he kills the Skullcrawler while she's in his palm.
What happens is he has her in his palm. The Skullcrawler jumps on his hand and like swallows his hand, and then he pulls his hand out, also grabbing its guts. She should totally be dead by that point. So I would say the movie, while I like it a lot, honestly, I would have said pre us rewatching the last two, I would have said this is probably my favorite in the series. As of right now, I think Godzilla 2014 feels better to me because it feels more focused. I like any individual element of this movie.
Cast.
Yeah.
Smaller focus.
I just think that this one, while I like more things in it, I would say that like the points of this movie, I would say it has higher highs potentially than Godzilla 2014. Godzilla 2014 feels like a more solid movie, whereas this feels like a collection of elements that doesn't quite come together for me for some reason. Do you have a final thought?
So there were a few things I wanted. Sorry.
No, please.
There were a few things I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to talk about this more with Godzilla versus Kong because I have many criticisms over that movie, but I'll leave it for then. But something that always just kind of, I don't know if it doesn't sit right with me. I think the Iwi are so interesting. I want to know more about them, but I also find it a bit interesting that their trope is they don't talk, which feels like it leans a little into the silent indigenous trope.
Sure.
I don't know if that was intentional or totally unintentional, or maybe it was we have no idea what language they would speak, so maybe we're not going to butcher one to give them one, which is, that's fine. So that's interesting. I think Hank Marlowe's relationship with them is really special. They
Yes.
took him in, and when he leaves, he doesn't say anything, or they don't say anything to him.
Yeah.
But you can tell that there is not a grief, but he's going to miss them, or at least some form. This has been his life for 30 years, or 20 years, however long, probably like 30 something, 25 years. And the performance is just amazing. So I don't know. It's interesting. The other thing I noticed was that when we go to the Iwi's like city, there's that big wooden wall to keep the skull crawlers out, essentially, and all the other things out of Skull Island. When we first encounter the Iwi, they're in a jungle that has stone ruins, and the thing that really interests I'm gonna get real nerdy. The thing that interests me is that there are carved stone arches. And we don't see any of that architecture in where the Iwis live. It is more kind of like huts.
Okay.
And there's a part of me that's like, were the Iwis chased out by the skull crawlers? But the skull crawlers have always been there. Does this allude to a different civilization that was run out of the jungle? It alludes to a previous civilization. I'm just curious, is that the Iwi? Is that another group that maybe assimilated into them, or maybe due to the dangers of Skull Island, that's what they were forced to move? I don't know. Either way, I just thought it was interesting. There were built stone curved archways and architecture that did not match the current people of the island. So anyways, that's just me being a nerd. The other thing that I thought was interesting is, so this is kind of where I do like this. So like they go for a quote unquote geological survey. Randa knows that there's big monkey there, that Kong is there, but they're also looking for hollow earth things. And I don't know how clear this is. It's very clear after King of the Monsters, but something that I think is interesting. I don't know. And this is maybe just me like thinking they're depth testing, and it's confirmed, the earth is much more hollow here. That wouldn't have been the hollow earth. That would have been probably what we had seen Axis Mundi. So there's a party that's like, does he want to test just maybe where, like, various places in the crust where it's hollow? Maybe he wants to try to find his wife and friend that are lost in Axis Mundi at that time. I don't know. It is interesting having watched Legacy of Monsters and then going back and watching the other movies and seeing how they're building up to the hollow earth.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
And also, so I can't remember his name, but he's the scientist that's kind of working under Bill Randa.
Yes.
He talks about how he had the first idea of the hollow earth theory, and everyone laughed at him, but Randa was the only one that believed in him. And honestly, that makes sense because Randa saw that he saw that firsthand.
Uh-huh.
Maybe he didn't go down there, but he knows it's real. Mm-hmm. He didn't think that kid was crazy because he's probably like, I lost my wife. No. But so, I don't know. There, like I said, I think it just kind of leans into there's so much more Bill Randa that I wish we could have seen.
Sure.
I feel like that was kind of most of all of my things.
Cool. Obligatory actors that are in this, that are in other things we cover. Obvious ones: Samuel Jackson, he's Mace Windu. John Goodman is one of the Transformers in the last two movies. Do you remember? He's the big guy. He looks like John Goodman.
Oh, he's Hound.
Yes.
Sorry, I was thinking about good Transformers media. He's Hound in Transformers: Age of Extinction and The Last Night.
Yeah.
He does look like John Goodman. He's in Cloverfield, whatever lane.
They're weirdly enough.
He's Sully in Monsters Inc.
Yes. So Thomas Middleditch? Thomas Middleditch. Oh, he's just a voice in this. That's why I saw him in the cast. I didn't see him. I don't know where the voice is in this movie, but he's also one of the scientists in Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Nice.
Which is pretty funny. I don't think he's been in anything Transformers. No. I think that's about it. I'm not really singing anyone else. There is an actor who was a voice in the most recent Allspark cartoon. He's also has a small part in Revenge of the Fallen. So there you go.
Earthspark?
Earthspark. Thank you.
I was like, I haven't heard of that one.
My final thought, I would say ultimately, while I love the nastiness of the movie, I love how scary it is, how fun it is, that it feels like a really good monster movie. The Vietnam element's great. The performances are great. The movie ends on a sincerely touching note.
I cry every time.
With Hank Marlowe finally returning home. There's early on when we meet him, he says, I don't expect my wife. I've got a kid back home, but I don't expect them to be waiting for me. And there's another moment where he says something like, you all look as good as a beer and a hot dog on Wrigley Field on opening day.
Finally, the representation I deserve.
The movie ends and the credits roll, and while the credits are rolling, we see like home footage on Super 8 film of him returning home, and his wife and son are there.
And she didn't move on.
And he gets to sit and watch a baseball game on television.
Cubs game. Get it right.
I said a baseball game. And he gets his beer and his hot dog, and that was not shot until much later on.
It's so good. And then it's just so, because honestly, out of all the characters you want to make it out, you want him to make it out.
Absolutely.
You don't care. I feel like by the time Hank Marlowe comes in, you don't care about anyone else. You want Hank to make it out.
I think
he's the most compelling.
He really offsets the nastiness of the movie, because I think if he died, you'd be a little pissed at the movie for killing him.
And I think there's a great contrast of how, I guess, people react to war and horrible things between Colonel Packard, who is Samuel L. Jackson's character, and Hank Marlowe. Everything he went through on Skull Island, I think there's a very interesting contrast on, I don't know how war impacts people, but anyways,
Sure.
Good, such nice balance, because you have crazy army guy who just wants revenge, and then you have the other guy. It's like, I was able to, actually, because you see it, Colonel Packard hates Kong. He just wants to destroy Kong.
Yes.
He just wants revenge. And then you have this story of Hank Marlowe and Gunpei, who, despite not even knowing each other's language, out of a necessity to survived together and became friends. They built that boat together that helped everyone escape. Gunpei never got to see it, which is heartbreaking, but it's just such good contrast. And then there is a short after credit scene.
Oh, yeah, I totally forgot about this. Yeah.
Conrad and Brie Larson, can't remember her name. Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson, they are in a interrogation room, and they are, like, they're demanding to be let out. And then the kids, I can't remember their names, kid scientist and another guy who had been with the quote unquote geological survey welcome them to Monarch, essentially. And they start showing that kind of like old footage you see at the other monster movies. Are like, there are more out there. Kong is not the only one. And it starts, I feel like this is where it starts that, this is an expanded universe kind of series.
Yeah, totally. And it felt, at the time, it felt like, are they teasing a sequel to this movie? Because I don't think they're going to set, like, what are they going to do? Like, are they going to go back to Skull Island and think they never made a sequel to this, thankfully. But though,
Skull Island
retroactively,
2, Electric Boogaloo.
You would think this is what the Monarch TV show should have been. Is these characters.
Yeah, really.
Starting Monarch. Like, this feels like where Monarch really started, not way back in the day, but here.
Yeah.
Like, I know you probably wouldn't be able to afford these actors, but it does feel like the place you said it.
Because they got Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
And his son. But so that was, and then it we're like, oh, is this a shared universe? And then you end with the classic Godzilla scream.
Yep.
And it's like, yep, we're getting a Godzilla expanded universe.
On the wall is a cave painting of Godzilla fighting a three-headed dragon, Ghidorah. And that will be next episode.
Let's go!
So we're excited for that. Stay tuned for Godzilla King of Monsters.
King of the Monsters.
Thank you. We move on to...
Put some respect on his name.
Move on to Meme Minute, but is it longer than a minute? But it is longer than a minute, normally. But is it longer than a meme parsec or meme astroseconds? Or a meme how far Kong can throw a tree through a helicopter?
Anyways,
Rachel,
we're going to talk about
videos?
something funny now. I do have something funny. I have all of my things are funny.
Do you have videos?
Yes, I have videos. Anyways, I just found this on Twitter. And so it's captioned, this is how I make my tweets, by the way, but this is a scene edited from Oppenheimer.
Oh my god.
It's only about 3 seconds
Someone
long.
has edited
Chopper from
Chopper
the Ahsoka
working
show.
on... What is...
This is when he's sifting through all of his stuff in the...
Oh, from Ahsoka, yeah.
Yeah. And it is...
He's working on the... What is that? I don't
The
remember
atomic bomb core.
It's the thing that they used in
The Trinity
Oppenheimer.
test.
Yes, thank you.
It's all the other scientists moving on it and Chopper. It's so funny.
So this is a clip from original Transformers, Transformers G1, but I don't remember what it is, so we'll see.
No God.
I've never seen anything this beautiful in the entire galaxy. All right, give me the bomb.
Did I send that to you?
No,
I thought I sent that to you.
I just found it.
All right, give me the bomb.
And that's Ultra Magnus in his ongoing head empty, no thoughts.
Empty, no thoughts.
Just love that clip.
This is a TikTok, and it's captioned a completely normal R2-D2.
Okay. So it's very much a close up on a Lego R2D2 that it zooms out and his legs are like
Been extended.
eight or 9 times longer than his
Bunch
body.
of blocks added to him. The big
Love it.
tool.
So this is a clip of Leonardo DiCaprio from his most recent film, Killers of the Flower Moon.
I need to watch that.
And the caption says, I think it just says General Grievous.
I like red, I like white, I like blue, I like all of them. Don't matter to me, I'm greedy.
It says, what's your favorite lightsaber color? General
What is he
Grievous?
talking about in that clip?
I don't know.
I'm afraid to know.
Found that very funny.
All right, it's meme time.
I got one more video here.
Oh, 3 video.
This one's real fast.
Lifting that much weight will for sure transform your body. Lifting that...
I've seen that one.
So it says, lifting that weight will sure transform your body. And this guy is pulling on a rowing machine.
I think one of our mutual friends sent that to me.
And he's doing the rowing machine, and then it breaks, and he falls backwards. But then they somehow animated it so that he transforms into Optimus Prime's truck,
So good.
and he drives away.
Lifting that much weight...
It's so fast and so unexpected and so well edited. But it's very low quality, so the editing doesn't have to be that good. But it lands so well. I love it.
Oh, so good.
All right, what's your shmeem?
All right, this is Anakin's hair on sad Wojak. Or no, withered Wojak.
I see.
I'm having visions that my significant other is going to die in agony. My second surrogate father might be a mortal enemy. I can't get over my mother's atrocious murder. Wojak Yoda. Cringe.
Dang, dude. Take a shot. It's a SpongeBob reference. Oh, look, it's a picture I took of you the first time I ever came here. Look at you, so young and happy. And it's young Shaw. Where do the years go when it's old Shaw?
I feel like you made that one.
You want to double down and guess right now?
No.
I think this is so good because they're both wearing a little hat, but you have Shaw he's smiling and he's got,
prime.
if you've never seen the cartoon, it's SpongeBob visiting the grocery store and he's got the picture of the guy and he's all happy and,
Where did the
he
time-
takes the photo down and the guy's there is all sad and it's too good. All right, what else you got, Rachel?
Text from your boss. Hi, where are you? And the picture they sent is...
It's clearly a shot from a classic Godzilla movie.
It is, and it's just a picture, and what it looks like, it's supposed to be like a amusement park, and it's actually the base of a secret lab. But anyways, it looks like it's a scene from one of the original Godzilla films. Understandable. Take as much time as you need.
So this is relevant to something, I think we talked about this almost immediately after we recorded last week or right before. Prince Charles was diagnosed with cancer. The headline says, what does King Charles' cancer diagnosis mean for Prince Williams? And it just has a battle droid. Well, I guess I'm in charge now.
Oh, no. That's a little funny. This is a tweet screenshot. The MonsterVerse is teasing Jesus Christ to be Godzilla's final rival, and it has two images. The first one of the iconic shots, really, from King of the Monsters, where Ghidorah is on the volcano and he's all stretched out. He's doing the cry, and it pans back and there's like a cross in the forefront. And then the other one is a screenshot from one of the trailers of a fight in Rio de Janeiro
With the big Jesus.
The big Jesus.
Yeah, that's the final monster, Big Jesus.
It's like when God of War came out and the jokes were that Kratos was going to take on Jesus, but they weren't actually going to fight because he was going to realize the all-empowering forgiveness offered by Christ.
It's really funny that yours is Jesus related because my next one it's a screenshot from a cartoon. I don't know what it is, but it's a VHS that says Jesus Zilla, son of Godzilla.
Oh.
And it's this poorly drawn monster with a face.
That's horrible.
I can't believe we've never made this joke before. This is such an obvious joke.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe we haven't. Who are we?
Jesus Zilla, son of Godzilla. Great joke,
we gotta
in my
turn in our
opinion.
Christian cards.
What else you got?
We are going to beat you to death.
And it's just a bunch of classic
a bunch of
Godzilla.
people in Godzilla suits.
Interesting. Good reaction.
One of my
image.
favorite formats.
This is the classic Star Wars poster, but over all of the characters, you just have one big seal, and most of the letters for Star Wars have been blacked out, and it just says R R.
R R.
So dumb.
Oh, hold on. I gotta. So. Oh, oops, I lost it. Me creating new accounts to get 1 month free trials, and it's just different iterations of Gigan from the Godzilla movie.
Man, he's got some very different versions.
He does. I would kind of love to see him in a legendary verse, but
how would you describe how he looks? He's a bizarre looking creature.
He is a bipedal, similar in build to Godzilla, but he is metal and fleshy. He's got a red visor. He's got a beak looking thing with two
almost mandibles, but they're big claws.
Mandibles, and he's kind of spiky, and his hands are basically scythes.
And he's also got one coming out of his forehead, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. It's like a
the visor is what gets me.
Yeah. See, that's I would love to see something like this in Legendary Verse. It would look terrible, depending on how they did it.
So I think we referenced this on a recent episode of the buff Star Wars toys from the 90s. Because he looked like He-Man. Well, someone photoshopped Luke to look like what he would look like if he was actually that buff, and it's very unsettling. So obligatory visual meme there. What else you got, Rachel? I'll become a furry for you, and it's a Valentine's Day card, and it's Agent Callus and Zeb. All great. Phenomenal. Thank you. I hope you didn't make that. We might be deleting this podcast if you made that. So this is Obi-Wan from episode 4 saying he was the best star pilot in the galaxy, and next to him is R4, his red astro droid, and a cunning warrior, and he's shocking some Jawas.
Isn't that from
That's from Clone Wars, it looks like. And he was a good friend, and he's just it's him with his head ripped off from episode 3.
No.
Which this also kind of correlates with the joke of him saying, I don't remember owning any droid. And then,
R4.
Am I a joke to you? All right.
This is a picture of Godzilla -1 holding a sign that just says, I am rapidly approaching your destination.
Yikes. That's frightening. That's really funny. I definitely want to send that to you whenever I'm on my way.
That's the only thing we send each other when we go watch movies or go to podcasts. I'm rapidly approaching your destination.
So we all know that one of Rachel's favorite meme formats is really right in front of my crab brain goons, but this one is really right in front of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and he's holding a photo of episode 2 Obi-Wan.
Oh, so good.
I've got 2 more memes.
I got 4.
Okay, give me 2.
All right. Wait, right? Yes. Okay. Never ask a woman her age, and it's Carly from G1. This is Transformers.
Oh, interesting.
Never
Okay.
a man his salary, and it's Spike. A collector, how much he paid for an item in front of his wife. It's a picture of Optimus Prime. Relatable. I've only had Ezra for a day and a half, but if anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself. Is that image from Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we simultaneously had that same feeling of live action. As soon as he showed up, we were like, "This is live action Ezra. He's great."
This is the boy.
Another purely visual meme that I really just want to get a visual reaction out of Rachel.
I hate that.
It's the episode 1 poster, but it says, "There are too many of them. What are we gonna do?" And every human character has been replaced with the little boy's face
And
from
instead
episode
of
3.
Maul's eyes, it's Anakin's.
Oh yeah, but like it's Qui-Gon with a beard, but it still has the kid's face with the beard, and
Things I don't like.
it's so
that
funny.
uncomfortable.
So funny. All right, give me 2 more.
It's okay to murder people, but it's not okay to disrespect women, by the way. And it's a picture of Clone Wars Maul.
Interesting. I guess he is from a matriarchal society. So.
It's funny because he calls Ahsoka, I think he calls her Miss Tano or
Lady
He calls her
Tano. He always
Lady
calls her
Tano.
Lady Tano. Yeah.
Bro drinks his respect women. If you don't love me at my, then you don't deserve me at my. And it's a picture of old.
So it's really poorly made old Godzilla and then modern Godzilla. Very good. I like that one.
Godzilla.
I like that one. Man arrested after stealing from Pizza Hut for not getting paid, and then it's just an image of the blue bounty hunter. Time to pay up, Hut. I don't work for free.
Cad Bane.
Yeah.
The blue bounty hunter.
What a great reappropriation of that joke. Time to pay up, Hut. I don't work for free. All right. Any other memes?
No, that's it.
Good stuff. So it's at this point that each of us shared all these memes. Each of us made one meme secretly. We are now going to guess which shmeme the other one shmade.
I really feel like it's the Kurt Russell, Lee Russell one, because who is making memes about Legacy of Monsters?
You know, if you dig deep enough, you will always find niche memes.
Who else watched it? Who else outside of us watched it?
Hey, if someone's writing an article asking...
But it's Screen Rant. They write about anything.
That's true. I briefly wrote for Screen Rant. And,
Oh, shoot!
Yeah.
Now they're just going to Google you in Star Wars and they're going to find your last name. I'm going to beat you to death.
While we're waiting on Rachel to send me her memes.
Just send them to you.
Okay.
Anything in this podcast.
As always, thank you to Caleb Jacoby for our excellent new intro music and our classic outro music.
Caleb Jacoby.
Props to Rachel for our artwork and Twitter account at Rebels Robots Pod.
Props to Cameron for our Facebook account. Why'd you cringe?
That was like a fake. It was a bad smile. And shout out to our editor Athena, who's been mostly
She's been in the corner
non-disturbed.
all
Well, she
night.
did briefly come over here and look at her water disappointingly.
Oh, she did get a snack though.
Okay, which one did Rachel make?
Really?
We're going to beat you to death seems very you. I'll become a fur. I think I've seen that one. I am rapidly approaching your destination's really funny. If you don't love me at my old Godzilla, then you don't deserve me at my new Godzilla seems very you.
Did you make this one?
I did.
Okay.
I did make the
You did
SpongeBob
make the
Shaw
SpongeBob
one. That is like popped in my head while I was working
It's
this
so
last
good.
week. Thank you. This is hard. Dang. There's a couple in here that really seem like you.
Rachel vibes.
I am gonna guess this one. If you don't love me at my old Godzilla.
You're wrong.
Dang it. Is it we're gonna beat you to death?
It is not.
Oh, dang. Is it the text message one?
It is not.
Dang. Okay. Is it the free trials one?
It is not.
Whoa. Is it the I'm rapidly approaching.
It is not.
Dang. Holy crap. Is it the Ezra one?
It is.
Wow. Took me deep into it.
I think.
I am not gonna lie. I was collecting my memes for this week, and I was like, man, these all look like ones I'd make.
Well, there you go.
I did not do a thing where I made a bunch.
The one, like I did that one time.
Yeah.
I just typed in clones into my computer. I just don't know why.
I am going to beat you to death. That is very on brand.
These were good games, good memes.
I got worried you were gonna guess the furry one.
No, I've seen that one before.
I did not make that one.
I did not seem like exactly your sense of humor to think of that. Well, so week 22.
Got a point.
I'm at 12 and 11. Rachel is at 14 and 8.
Let's go.
Very nicely done. Very nicely done. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us this week. Not our longest episode, I think. I think we're going to come in just under. I forgot to look and see what our longest episode is, but I don't think so we got that in nicely. We covered a lot of ground today.
Throwback to last episode when we thought we didn't record.
At the very end, there was I briefly thought that the file was corrupted. But thank you so much for joining us. We will be back in 2 weeks with the next 2 episodes of Bad Batch Season 3, as well as the very excellent Godzilla King of Monsters. And as of right now, we are planning on having a guest on that episode.
Woo!
So we'll see if that pans out, but that is the plan as of right now. I have not checked with him in like a month, so I need to check with him to make sure he's still good with that. But yeah.
Hey man, you still up for Godzilla?
Give us something to read on the pod. Leave a review, tweet or DM us memes or opinions. And this is Cameron and Rachel signing off saying, listeners, you look as good as a hot dog and a beer on opening day at Wrigley Field. Thanks for listening. Bye. Good night, everyone. Cracking open cold one right on mic. Oh, good. That is some good, crispy audio. Better not spill it on my laptop.
Cameron, I put it on the table.
And if it spills, it'll spill on my laptop.
Hold on.
Oh. And half of our subscribers just unsubscribed.
All 2 of them?
Yeah, exactly. We're down to 1. Who left? Megan or Caleb or your mom?
My mom.
Yeah, your mom definitely would be out, huh?
Caleb couldn't because this is a not sponsored Pepsi.
You got it back in. He was about to shut off, but you got it back in.